go 1-0 each and every week.
You can't stop the pressure.
We got to continue to build on this culture.
I'm on another level.
Sky's the limit. We just got to keep it going.
It's the biggest game that we got next year.
Welcome to NFL Live. Week 5 is upon us, and there's so much to get to, but coming in moments, we'll give you the latest on Russell Wilson's finger injury, plus the medical timeline for his return. You see him right there. You got Keyshawn Johnson, Ryan Clark, and Phil Yates here with you for the hour, and let's go back to that Sunday slate, because some great games. RC, you start us off. What you watching out for most as we head to Sunday?
I'm excited about this AFC Championship rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. The last we saw these guys on the field, Patrick Mahomes was going crazy against that defense of the Buffalo Bills, and Josh Allen was on the sideline with that look on his face. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are rolling. 2 shutouts this year, and the Kansas City Chiefs aren't necessarily playing great on defense, but I expect Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill to be ready for that Buffalo defense who hasn't seen people like them this year.
Well, you're talking about that game. Let's stay out in Los Angeles where I'm at. You got the Browns and the Chargers. This matchup is going to be so intense. What do we see out of Baker Mayfield against that defense? But on top of that, what is Justin Herbert? How are you going to defend Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Cook at the tight end position, Austin Eckler at the running back spot? If, in fact, the Chargers win this game, they are the AFC champs already, in my opinion.
So let's get back to last night, where the Rams were able to get the division win in a game where both quarterbacks actually suffered injuries to their fingers. Now, Matt Stafford seemed fine. Russell Wilson, though, could miss significant time after already missing a lot of time in this game. Let's bring in our injury analyst, Stefania Bell. And Stefania, what more can you tell us about Russell Wilson's injury and the timeline for return with this?
Oh, Laura, when Russell Wilson's hand ran into the force that is Aaron Donald, he ended up with what we call a mallet finger. You could see it on TV. I'll show you here. When you have your finger forcibly bent down and the tendon tears, the tendon that attaches to the tip of your finger gets stuck like this, where the tip is bent, because now the extensor tendon, the one that's responsible for straightening it, is no longer attached. So that's why we saw the deformity that we saw on Russell Wilson's hand. The problem for a quarterback is not only grip and control in the immediate sense in terms of any pain or swelling, what have you, but also handling the football. If the tip of the finger is hanging down, it can make it really difficult to have it snap under center, to just hold the ball, maneuver with it. And Pete Carroll after the game said he couldn't throw the ball like he needed to. So what do you do for treatment? Well, typically the standard treatment is you splint it. If it's an isolated tendon tear, you splint it, rest it for 6 to 8 weeks. You can put a pin inside it, but you still need to keep it extended to allow it to heal. The third option is no surgery, and you leave the deformity, but then you have the potential problems that I told you about. And again, we heard he was going for more testing, MRI, CAT scan, 3D imaging, so you can get a complete picture of what's going on. Because if there's any other tissue damage involved, that might dictate what happens next. But in any event, I find it very hard in any scenario to see Russell Wilson playing this week.
Yeah, wow. Thanks so much, Stefania. You mentioned that he was going to get more scans or get it looked at a little closely. Head coach Pete Carroll told reporters he's seeing a hand specialist in Los Angeles today, actually. But Ryan, when you think about the timeline and what you just heard from Stefania, how does this affect the Seahawks? We saw Geno Smith come in, but either way, without Russell Wilson, he's what makes this team go.
Listen, absolutely. Russell Wilson's middle finger is the most important middle finger in Seattle since Earl Thomas left the field telling Pete Carroll that they were number one. And so when you look at Russell Wilson and his recovery or what he means to this team, this is huge. I don't think any team has been as dependent on their quarterback for explosive plays, for plays in general, as the Seattle Seahawks have been in recent years on Russell Wilson. I mean, that's why we've been saying, let Russ cook. And so now think about the plays he makes pushing the ball down the field, the DK Metcalf to Tyler Lockett. Also the things that he can do by improvising inside the pocket. There are so many things that Russell Wilson and his talent cover up for. Also his understanding of the offense. And so when you think about this team and even where they are right now with Russell Wilson and his defense not playing well, This is not a playoff team without him, and I think we stopped talking about them while Russell Wilson is out, even though they have an experienced backup in Geno Smith.
So rare for Russell Wilson to not be healthy. He started in 149 consecutive games. That's understandably the longest streak by any active quarterback in the NFL. All right, but the Rams won the game, okay? So let's talk about them a little bit in this division. Wilson wasn't the only one to suffer a finger injury last night. Matthew Stafford also hurt his index finger on his throwing hand in the first half. Stafford struggled in that first half against Seattle, but looked like a different quarterback in the second half, posting a 95 QBR while averaging nearly twice as many yards per attempt. The Rams went on to score 23 of their 26 points in the second half. Key, what did you see out of Stafford's performance specifically in the second half last night?
I think, Laura, when you look at it, the first half, there was a lot of Cooper Kupp. But in the second half, not only did they run the ball well, he also passed the ball and mixed it up to different receivers. He didn't solely rely on Cooper Kupp. So when you look at that, it almost felt like he settled down to me, that he realized, oh, I got some other targets like a Robert Woods that I need to get the football to, a Deshaun Jackson that I forgot that I had on my offensive side of the ball. So when you start to think about settling down, and they got into the running game. When you can run the ball effective, it helps the quarterback out tremendously. But I'm not worried about Matthew Stafford. He's not the problem for the Rams. It's that defense. What will that defense be? They're on their third defensive coordinator in 3 years. You go from Wade Phillips to Brandon Staley, and now you have Raheem Morris. And on top of that, you've lost a bunch of talent that people don't even talk about on that side of the ball, RC.
Yeah, no, that's huge. To me, it's about no Troy Hill. It's about no John Johnson. As you already mentioned, no Brandon Staley. You're losing pieces to a defense that was extremely good last year, number one defense in the NFL. And people think that just because you have Aaron Donald and you have Jalen Ramsey, that you could just run things back. That's not how it works. This team needs to gel. This team is playing a different defense than they have in years before, especially the way that things are done schematically when you go from a Brandon Staley to a Raheem Morris. And so it's going to take time for this team, this defense, to find their way. Also, offensively, they have to learn to fit that. You saw in the second half, and Key mentioned this, they started to run the ball. Sony Michel was a huge part early on in the third quarter. It allowed the play-action game to work. You can't just keep sending Aaron Donald, sending Jalen Ramsey out on the field with the Rochelles and the Williams and the David Longs and thinking that they're going to stop team play after play after play. What you saw in the second half from the offense is huge because that's what this defense will need to play well until it gels completely.
You know, RC, even back when they got Matthew Stafford, people were already putting the Rams in the Super Bowl. Do you think even with their defensive struggles, they're still legit contenders in the NFC?
Listen, I absolutely do. And, you know, we're talking about this defense struggling, but they're doing what they have to do right now to win football games. They have to find some pieces outside, and I know Key's going to talk about this a little bit. The pressure hasn't been as good as it was last year. But when you have a Matthew Stafford, when you have a Sean McVay, when you have those weapons that you have outside, this team is absolutely an NFC contender, an NFC championship contender. The problem is it's not the number one defense, and it's not just adding a guy like Matthew Stafford and having instant offense. This team has to continue to work for the chemistry and continue to figure out who the 2021 Rams are.
Hey, Key, you want a quick ad there?
Yeah, and what I was going to say is as long as they are capable of making a run in NFC, as long as they can shore some things up front, start to get some pressure, because as Marcus mentioned, the back end, that back end has got to coincide with the front end of the defense. Aaron Donald's got to start getting pressure. They've got to start to figure out how to get Floyd open. Whether you're bringing guys out of the secondary, whatever it is, you can't depend on defensive backs holding up for a long period of time, especially when you go up against teams like Arizona with a quarterback who can run around.
RC, did Key just call you Marcus? Key, did you just call him Marcus?
He did. He did. Listen, I've been eating good,
Did I call you Marcus?
I've been eating good, Laura. Laura, I've been eating good. You see it?
All these
You see
LSU
it?
guys, Key,
They don't know
we
I might
can't
have
keep
that
track
yak
of
in
them.
here. I might have that yak in here.
Man, Key, I love you, but I got to call you out.
Bad.
You call somebody by the wrong
I'm
name.
so used to being with Marcus all the time.
I know. Hey, it happens. This is what happens when we put Key on a
So,
Friday.
Key, you saying
right,
we all look alike? So we all look alike, Key.
Stop. Now, it's that LSU thing. We're moving on. All right, let's get injury reports from Field Yates here. We need all the latest heading into Sunday. Field, let's start with San Francisco and the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, Laura, usually I'm the one that people confuse for Marcus on the show. Don't worry, Key happens to us all. But let's start with Jimmy Garoppolo.